She's still laughing.
That's so funny. Welcome to 5 Lemons Left. We're the real stuff, the lemons making lemonade. So pucker up, because we're going to be discussing our life's lessons and the nitty-gritty details of our spiritual journeys.
Hey y'all, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Drusilla.
I'm Melissa.
Hello, this is Morgan.
And I'm Penny. Welcome to our podcast today. Oh, that's funny.
That is funny. Morgan, tell that joke so our listeners can hear. We always start with a joke, and some of them are pretty bad. We don't share, but this one was funny.
Okay, so I have to give credit. It's from the Instagram page, Dad Says Jokes. And the joke is, I asked a librarian if she had a book about Pavlov's dog and Schrodinger's cat. She said it rang a bell, but she wasn't sure if it was there or not.
Oh my gosh. I love that. When I went through my coach's training, we read about all of that, and it was just really fascinating. So it's funny to have that come back around again.
Well, hopefully you guys are laughing as much as we did, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. In case you're new here, we don't start with a joke every time, but we do like to laugh. We are 5 Lemons Laughing, and we talk about spiritual stuff. We talk about how it applies to our everyday life. And today we're talking about the development of trust. And we're also we're going to revisit the story of Melissa's mom. And that's on the podcast, our podcast, that F&B stole my piece. We're going to get an update on how Melissa's mom is doing, and then talk about how when we're living in trust, we don't have to melt down and freak out and do all those things anymore. So today we're really answering the question, what does living in complete trust look like? Yeah. What if we knew that everything was perfectly planned for our good? And would we even need to melt down anymore if we really had developed trust? So Melissa, please tell us, how's your mom doing?
She's good. She's feeling better. She actually tried to call the doctor and ask for some kind of procedure or something like that. And she didn't get an answer. And then she got some direction that she didn't even understand. So it was just another sign that this is probably not the doctor for her. Mm-hmm. So she's doing better. She's seeing an acupuncturist and a functional doctor. So, which I think is better anyway. I mean, that's my personal belief, but yeah, she's fine. She's still spicy, but she's
well. How are you doing after all of it, Melissa?
I'm actually good. It was just a really good reminder. I felt really great to share it with people, to really cement in my mind that I could have done something differently, and I can in the future. And we're talking about this again because someone wrote in to our show and asked us, or Amanda, explain what she said. It wasn't a question, it was a statement, I think.
It wasn't really a question. So to back up just a little bit, in case you're listening for the first time and didn't hear the episode that F&B stole my piece, what happened was that Melissa took her mom to the doctor and it completely fell apart. And Melissa's piece went away.
Go listen. It's a great episode.
It is a good,
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to listen.
yeah. So that's just a little bit of the backstory. And now I forgot what you asked me.
So
What
your
was the listener question?
Oh, thank you. Yes. Okay.
or statement. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was brought up that, of course, you would react that way, right? You have to stick up. You have to fight. You have to do that. I mean, like that, of course you would. Why would you not? So that's what we're speaking to. And that's where really the development of trust. So in Melissa's story, hearing the outcome of Melissa's mom is actually doing okay, that she's getting better support than she would have at that doctor. And then also that story that you just told about trying to work with that same doctor again and it fell apart. So like clear signs that while you were in it, it didn't look like things were going well. But from hindsight, letting go of that really helped know that the choices were right. They were just forced upon you in a very unpleasant way.
Well, but I think one of the things that I got from the listener's statement was, isn't it okay to escalate?
Yeah.
And when you listen to the episode, Drusilla brings up a really important point. Like, I could have sat in the chair and sent her blessings and love, and it could have changed the outcome and the whole process, the escalation. And I've thought a lot about that because it can. I have had other experiences where I took that, way of being about a situation, and it was helpful. It was helpful not to escalate. It was helpful. Just personally, the way I was really abusive to one of the women both of the women in the office. And I think I could have avoided that. And I just think you can choose to do it differently. And you can choose to do it differently and you still get the outcome that you want. You can choose to do it in a more loving way and still win. I mean, not that I'm winning over this other woman, but it's just feel like it's something done that you need to get done.
Well, and I love that, Melissa, that you actually shared this story with our group, our podcast, and with our followers, because I don't know, maybe a week or two afterwards, I took my dog to an eye specialist. He has to get a surgery. He's getting it tomorrow. I'll just send him lots of love and blessings. And it's elective. Anyway, I walked in about 4 minutes late and they told me to come 5 minutes early. And the lady who took me in was like a biatch. And I thought, I'm going to just sit down here. And I sent her love. I honestly did. And I was just loving and kind to all the other people that were in the waiting room. And I thought that's the better way to be, because I wanted to, yeah. Anyway, so I chose to do it differently based on your experience. And so I appreciate that you brought that, because sometimes we have these stories, when we're not being so spiritual, we don't want to share them with anybody, because if we do, people are going to judge us and think that we're, oh my God, that's so unspiritual of you. Like, who do you think you are? But I think it's beautiful that you shared it, Melissa. It helped me tremendously.
Thank you.
I'm realizing that as I'm hearing you both share, that I have this false belief that, because I can be passive. I mean, I can be triggered and be aggressive and attack and go into attack if I feel attacked also. But sometimes I can be passive and be taken advantage of or steamrolled. And then I see people at restaurants being complete assholes and getting their whole check cleared for free. And it's like, okay, I'm not kicking and screaming, so I'm not getting the discount because my food came out wrong and I'm not being a jerk about it. So anyway, I have the false belief that you have to be bold and assertive and maybe even aggressive in order to get the outcome that you want. So that's interesting.
Very
This
interesting.
year, Morgan. Yes. I just experienced that over the weekend, and I felt a little bit of the same way. But it was with a neighbor of mine, and she went to our family dinner with me, right? And my family, for the most part, we're all kind of middle of the road. Like, we don't like to make a stink. Let's just say my mom says we know how to act when we're in pubs. And so it was for my mom's birthday, another birthday dinner. This is the second one we had for her, and so they were a little, I would say, a little sloppy with the service. Like, they brought out appetizers and they didn't bring out the little small plates that would go with it, and just little things like that. And so the lady that was with us, she kept nudging me and saying, "Oh, I see the managers over there," because she could tell they had on different shirts or whatever. And she was like, "I think I need to go over there and handle this for y'all." And I said, "No." I knew I'd been to dinner with her plenty of times, and I know she knows how to handle it, right? In quotations. And I said, "Well, no, thank you. I think everything will work out fine." But there was a part of me, and she never said anything to them, and everything was perfect. I mean, it really was. But there was a part of me that I've seen her in action, and I've seen her get things done or make things happen, right? And so I think there is a part of our upbringing or society that does reinforce that, but I think the moral of the story is you look at the good for all.
Yeah.
And in Melissa's story, why would you want to leave people who, leave them feeling less about themselves or inadequate or incompetent, And I think a bigger part of that story is whatever is coming up, it's always coming up for you, right? The impatience, or looking at someone like they're less than or that they are incapable. But the story is always about you. You're the one walking around in the universe and your bubble and your interactions. So you have no clue about what's coming from the other side. Your experience in this universe is strictly about you. And I think that's what we fail to realize, that all of the lessons, any conflict is about you making a wrong decision.
I have got a story that illustrates that perfectly, Drusilla. So I go
Bring it on.
riding. I know. I'm so excited to tell you. So I go riding every day. Like, I've talked about riding river, and it's down 2 dirt roads. I don't get on pavement. And there's a horse shelter that's towards where I ride. So a few days ago, I'm on the way, and this person is tailgating me on a dirt road, right? And I'm going, the speed limit's like 25, but, I'm probably going 35, 40, because you got to get up above the ruts in the road, which, anywho, that's a whole nother story. So I'm riding down the road, and this person's tailgating me, and my mind goes to, I'll show them. And I started slowing down just to be a F and B, right? So I started slowing down, and this person passes me. Oh my goodness. So my mind starts going, I'm going to call the horse shelter. I mean, we live in New Mexico. Like, why do you move to New Mexico to pass somebody on a dirt road? Right. So today, on my way, I get behind someone that's going 10 miles an hour, and I just started laughing. No way I can pass this person. Yep. Because I just had a mind thing, a couple of days ago. It was the perfect illustration. It was hilarious. And I knew they would be turning. So I was able to turn on some music and sing and really take stock and ownership of the fact that I created this, and it's funny because now I'm going 10.
Yeah. And just to clarify, you were in your vehicle, not on river.
I was in my vehicle on the way to riding, right?
Yeah.
Which is, which I say is it is a spiritual experience, right? And typically on the way, I clear all my thoughts but just, so
Hey, how was River the day that they passed you when you were riding him? How did it go?
I don't even remember.
Mm.
I didn't correlate those two things. Like, I don't.
Mm.
So
I also think we've all had so many experiences with, like your story, Amanda, we've done it one way and we've done it another way.
Mhm.
And we've come to the same conclusion or end. And if we can remind ourselves that I can do the same thing, I can get to the same end result with love rather than attacking, then I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, the receptionist at the vet, by the time we left, I mean, she was going, "Oh, Winston, what a good little boy. You're such a good puppy."
Oh,
And she was so kind. I mean, really, I thought she was going to be not very kind the whole time, but she was just like flipped.
wow.
More evidence.
More evidence.
Yeah.
And that really is trust, isn't it?
Mhm.
Once you can remove the societal blocks, our own blocks that we have to thinking something should be different, or fear of the other side of what that looks like.
And that it'll work out for you.
Yeah.
And take responsibility for your part. I walked in and I said, I acknowledge that I am 5 minutes late.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want you to know, I hope I can still be seen. And she said, and then of course I was, and everything's good. But I acknowledged and took responsibility for being late.
And the one thing we have to be mindful of is that when we talk about everything working out and everything working out for the good of everyone, sometimes we don't know what that is. You know, sometimes it's not something that we could say, well, we know the end result. But that is the essence of trust. That just dawned on me why I said that. That is where the trust really is. And that even if you don't know the result, even if you don't know how your mom's situation is going to come out, where she's going to get help from, what's going to be the best guidance, for her, then you still have to trust that it's all working out, because that is the essence of what spiritual faith is.
That's a really good point, Drusilla. When I like to say, well, everything's working out for everybody's highest and best, right? And I have trust and faith that everything's working out for the best. And I have some family members that argue with me about that. How can you say that? How can you even think that? We don't, this isn't the highest and best. Look at what happened. And so how would you guys respond to somebody in your family very close to you saying that to you, that they don't like you saying that? I guess I just got to stop saying that.
I find myself not saying that very much, especially in situations where everybody can't see. Because, I find myself in certain situations being very careful about who I say that to and when I say it. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I'm learning that too.
But it is hard to believe. I mean, I acknowledge that children getting sex trafficked or whatever, how can that be the best thing? And it's, again, I think it just goes back to believing that the world is working out in everyone's favor. At some point, somewhere, the universe, it is good for everyone. Not that good that it happened, but there's something about it that will end up being good for that person or good for the earth or the universe. I mean, I'm just making stuff up that I shouldn't even be making up. But again, it comes back to trust and faith that there is a higher power here working for our good.
Right. Well, and the truth that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So in this human experience, it can look like doo-doo. It can look like the stage 4 cancer has come back and this person has a week to live. It can look like the sex trafficking or whatever, but we're we're trusting that the highest and best is unfolding on another level. It's the spiritual lessons and growth that we came into this body, into this life to achieve or to accomplish, and just trusting that, our destination is certain, the highest and best outcome is certain on that eternal spiritual level.
Yeah.
Which is hard to explain.
Right.
Well said.
That's what I say. If someone doesn't, there's a certain foundation of belief that someone has to have to be able to receive it. It's as simple as
True.
that. And if they don't, because for me, I thought about the same things, Melissa, even though I grew up, in a Christian environment, it was very difficult to understand how you could forgive someone who, murdered someone or something like that. But through more spiritual growth, I've come to kind of just look at it totally different, just in terms of understanding a purpose and why we would be here as humans or as spiritual beings having a human experience. And certainly my choice to believe that I came here for a specific purpose and chose a certain set of parents, certain environment, and knowing what that fate was going to be. So if you already know that, then how can you not trust that everything is working out the way that it should, right? Because we chose to come here with that premise in mind.
Right.
Yeah.
And that you can never make a wrong decision, right? You can never do something that can't be rectified. It's impossible.
Yeah. You can stay on the hamster wheel as long as you'd like to.
Yes. And that was the other thing that I wanted to bring up about Melissa's story too, is that making the choice to still grow through pain. Yes, we can say a specific part of that outcome still works out for the best. But when we think about that, the situation arose because there was something in it that you needed to learn from, right? Or when we keep repeating that same opportunity to learn from will rise again. That's the wheel that we keep getting back on, right? So it's going to look totally different, of course, but it's going to be that same place of learning coming from the same place of pain that you will need to be able to make that correct decision of choosing love over fear or anxiety or whatever it was. You'll need to make that decision again and again. And that's how we evolve and elevate ourselves, our level of awareness.
Yeah. And I love that Course in Miracles does specifically opposite of the New Testament, growing up as a Southern Baptist. I appreciate that A Course in Miracles specifically says it's best not to share this with other people. This is your practice. It's not asking you to go out and evangelize. And so if you're at a funeral and everyone's in mourning, is it really loving to go up and say, it's for the highest and best, all good, Hakuna Matata? That doesn't feel very loving. That's our personal practice. We know that, and we show up with love and compassion in this human experience. So yeah, just wanted to offer that.
Good point. Yes.
And I think we have created religions and spirituality to give us something to work with when this stuff happens. We need we need anchors and we need buoys to hold ourselves up in tough times. And I think that is the story of religions and spirituality.
I'm also reminded of the story that I know that our teacher, Jennifer Hadley, has shared it before, but I've also read it in a book before, and I can't remember which book it is, but about the guru and the mother and the son who has like the disease. He has a really horrific chronic illness or disease, and all of the gurus, like disciples or followers, are angry with him because he has the spiritual gifts and ability to heal the child, but he won't heal the child. And he tells his disciples, I don't know what the word is, he tells his people that he knows that in a previous life, the mom lacked compassion, and the mom and the son entered a contract to come into this life. The son would have the illness to help the mom develop compassion, and he would be interfering with their contract and with her opportunity to heal and grow and expand in this way. So that's sort of how this works. Like we have to, that's where the trust and faith comes on. There's stuff working on another level that our cognizant mind is completely unaware of, because we're only using what percent of our brains. And yeah, so that's where trust and faith comes in. Like just trusting that there's more than meets the eye at work in all of these tricky situations.
Well, that's a great story. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Melissa, I'm going to invite you to look at your words and to really, yes, because in the beginning, you said, I'm just making stuff up now. And those words didn't ring true for me. Like, what do you know about that? Because you said, I'm just making stuff up because I know that it works out either on a universal level or a spiritual level. And then you said, I'm just making stuff up. And that I perceived that as a habit of word and not actually the truth. And I just want to see, I want to revisit those words. And not to put you on the spot, which, hello, I just did. So I apologize, but not really.
Way to go. No, I think that was about like, I wasn't trying to put words into the universe's organization.
Okay,
like
gotcha.
You're getting sex trafficked, so you can teach a lesson.
Right.
I don't know the answer. I don't know why sex trafficking happens. And I would hate to say, give some kind of like, because you needed to learn, I was trying to back that out a little bit and just say, these are questions I have too. Like we can all reason, like there's got to be a reason, and there's got to be a reason why people do other things to people, horrid things to people. I don't know why. But so I don't want to make that up, but like personally, it soothes me to have faith in the fact that there is something greater than us, figuring out the puzzle. So it is the best for all of us. And I hope that makes sense.
It does. And thank you for revisiting that, because my mind was hearing something different and I really wanted to be clear, because this is important. Trust and building trust, development of trust is important stuff.
Well, and until we may not be able to see any gifts in some of the horrific things that happen today, especially when they happen to us, but maybe down the road, the gift will come to us. So I think that, we just can't see it maybe right now, and it's okay. So start looking for the gifts in some of the smaller things that happen, And
I feel like when I first had my kids, I would catastrophize and, just think, oh, the horrible things are going to happen. And I had to like reel that back for myself to have some kind of peace in my life. And so I really think that I pursued some of my faith and my spirituality for some of that comfort, to get me out of that headspace and to soothe me a little bit, calm me down. So I didn't think just a whole bunch of horrible stuff was going to happen to my children. Mm-hmm. And if something happened to my children, it would be really hard for me to accept that that was a good thing. Mm-hmm. So
you wouldn't like somebody to say it's for the highest and best, sweetheart.
No. I'd be like, no. Punch him in the face at the funeral. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
I just want to go on record. I don't say that when it's those types of things, you guys. I'm talking about like if the car breaks down and we can't get somewhere. Well, maybe it's for the highest and best,
Right.
So noted.
Thank you.
So what other ways do we see the development of trust in our lives?
Melissa, you had a good way of explaining that before we started recording.
Well, I was thinking about, when you kind of hit a wall and you don't know which way to turn and you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. And for me, I found myself laying in a bed with Epstein-Barr, chronic fatigue. I'd get up and take my kids to school and I come back and get back into bed by like 9:30. And it was fatigue. It was my body I was done. And I started reading the Course in Miracles and I was realizing I wanted to pursue a more spiritual path for my own sanity, but I was holding on so tightly to my life, how I made it up to that point, because trust for me was so hard, and it was like stepping off a cliff. I had to stand at the side of the cliff and decide I am ready to take the step, because I was living in so much pain and it was so hard. And so I remember walking and I remember exactly where I was. And I remembered, oh my God, I don't have to put all my faith in people, places, and things around me. I can let go. It's okay to let go of all that stuff. And, but I was really, really scared of what was going to happen when I did. And I think that stops a lot of people from building their trust and faith, because they think, I thought my marriage was going to end if I got on a spiritual path. My kids would think something's wrong with me. My family everyone would abandon me, essentially. And, none of that happened. None of it happened. And so, it's that you're at the cliff. You're at the cliff and you have to decide if you're going to build your faith and trust, or turn around and walk away and do it how you've always been doing it.
So you just really nailed the first 3 steps of the development of trust. You really did.
What are they?
Almost verbatim from, so the development of trust is in the manual for teachers. And of course, the fact that we are on this platform makes us all teachers, which means that we have the most to learn, right? Teachers are learners and learners are teachers. When the ladies, the receptionists were your teachers. Back to that whole story. But yeah, so basically the period of undoing, that's when you first have that glimpse of light. It's like when you first knew that you were ego driven and you wanted to be spiritually led, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's the period of sorting out, figuring out, well, how does that look? What things are important to me, right? So you kind of narrowed it down to, okay, these things are really, really important, but I'm still holding on because I don't want to let go of those things, right? So that's the sorting out what's valuable and what's not. Then you think you know what's valuable, and you have that period of relinquishment, meaning that those things that are truly, truly important are the things that you really, really hold on tight to until you can't anymore, because it's so painful that you have to let it go, or else you feel like you're suffocating, which then brings you to the, what a lot of people call the dark night of the soul.
Right.
So that's actually step 4. So it sounds like you probably even went that far, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of people and spirituality and on their spiritual paths get there without knowing that they've gone through these other steps. And it is almost like you think that you're just now awakening, but you've really been going through those other steps, And then after that, I think we have the period of achievement, which is, I think we've talked about this on the show before. It's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that's the self-actualization. And, who am I to know if any of us are there, or we, and the truth of the matter is, according to the Course, we can be at any of these and we kind of spiral back down, and then we take a couple of steps. And then there are many situations that fall within each pocket of those where you might experience one or two of those different things. So it's not just a linear, process, the way we typically do things or the way humans typically think. It can be a hodgepodge of different steps that you're going through in any one scenario. But I thought it was really interesting how you told that story, that it was perfectly aligned with the first few steps, probably at least the 4th step, if you had that dark period of a dark night of the soul, and which I think that's probably another episode that we can talk about.
Well, I can quickly say that I think the dark night of my soul was in that process, being really sick, knowing I had to let go of all these things outside of me that I thought were what I had faith in, to make me better, right? Or not better, like sick and better, but that's where I put my identity. That I think I was like pre-grieving everything I was holding on to, like it was all going to leave me. And so I was like pre-grieving. It was horrible. And then after I let go, lots of those things that I thought were going to disappear didn't. But I put myself in that situation just because of the intensity of the whole experience. But coming out the other side, I can see it would have been such a better, well, I mean, should have, would have, could have, but if maybe I could have been feeling it rather than in my head, really convincing myself that all this stuff was going to be taken away from me. And then I got really into believing that it might have been an easier process. And I only want to bring that up because if some people are really on that edge of the cliff, like, I know I need to go in this direction, but I'm not willing to give up all this stuff, it might not go away. It might still be with you. So like, jump.
Yeah. And what if it's even better, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. It could be better than you can even imagine. Yeah.
It usually is. If I look back on my life, all of the situations that I've had where doors have closed, the next phase was better than I ever thought it would be.
Yes.
Like, how old were you when this was all happening, Melissa? I'm really curious because I'm thinking you were pretty young.
No,
yeah. Well, that's pretty young still.
Oh,
I love us. 30's still young.
My God, I feel like a teenager. Oh my.
40's the new 20, right?
It is.
I think this is a helpful section in the course and a helpful conversation, because I think it's not uncommon for people to kind of like turn towards the spiritual path and think that life is just going to be sunshine and rainbows from here on out. And then maybe it isn't. And they maybe start to question themselves and maybe start to feel like failures or spiritual failures and stuff like that. And it specifically says in the development of trust section that this need not be painful, but it usually is so experienced. And so I just think it's helpful to make people aware of the fact that that's not an abnormal experience and keep going.
But it doesn't have to be. It does
not have to be.
And it's like, we were just talking about sobriety, like, choosing to be sober. Some people may think that would be the worst decision they could ever make in their whole life, to give up alcohol and not going out with your friends or whatever. But if you look at a lot of sober people, they are so much happier. I mean, there's, not that they don't go through a lot of painful situations to get there, but these things that they're holding on to that they don't want to let go of if they get sober, usually are just, they have a better outcome when they let it go.
Attachment. Yeah.
I remember the same thing with my husband, Melissa, when thinking that I would leave him behind. Like, do I want to leave him behind?
Yeah.
What would that look like? And once I did let that go, like, our relationship's better than it ever has been. What I had to let go of was our old relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That's beautiful, Amanda.
Perfect.
And you guys, we are about at the end of our time. So any final comments before Penny and her post-its?
Well, I have a couple post-its, unless somebody was going to say something. First of all, the lesson will repeat until we harvest the learning. That's one of the things I got from this episode. And trust equals letting go and letting God run the show.
Yay.
That's an old cliche, but I think that it's pretty powerful for this episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's August. It's full moon. It's a wonderful time for harvesting.
Ooh, yeah. Very good. And you're not even a farmer.
I'm a farmer of spiritual wisdom and truth.
Oh, I love that.
Way to claim it, Morgan. Yes.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I love it.
That was cheesy, but I don't care. Okay. Thank you all so much for listening, for being here. We appreciate the questions and the comments that we've gotten. They've been excellent fuel for more, deeper, bigger, better conversations. So we love to hear from you. And if you have any questions or comments about anything we've shared on any episode, send it our way. We'd love to go deeper on any of the topics that we've touched on. So you can do that by commenting on any of our social media posts. Our handle on Instagram and on Facebook is 5 Lemons Laughing, all together, one word. We are on YouTube, and we have our own beautiful website, 5lemonslaughing.com. So there's a bunch of ways to get in touch with us. And we
are not dancing on TikTok.
Yeah, no TikTok dancing. Not yet, anyway.
Not yet.
These lemons on TikTok.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
I want to say
What,
hi to my
Amanda?
friend Shannon. I just
Okay,
want to
cool.
Shannon.
Hi,
Hi,
Shannon.
Hi, Shannon. Thanks for listening.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye, everybody. See you
Have a
next
great
week.
week.